There is a kind of person who moves in and out of people's lives, like a tide that never learned how to stay still. One day they are warm, present, laughing with you, sharing pieces of themselves they rarely reveal, and then suddenly they are gone. Not with a fight. Not with a dramatic exit. Not even with a warning. They just drift into silence. The messages become shorter. The calls stop. The energy shifts. They fade into a kind of emotional distance that feels almost supernatural. It is as if they step off the map and vanish into a world only they can see. This disappearing act confuses the people who care about them. It feels personal. It feels like abandonment. It feels like rejection. But the truth is far more complicated. People who disappear are not heartless. They are not careless. They are not indifferent. They vanish because something in closeness terrifies them. Something in connection awakens an old wound they never learned how to soothe. They are battling a storm inside that they do not want anyone else to see. The vanishing personality type often starts as a child who learned that the safest place was away. Not physically far, but emotionally withdrawn. They grew up in environments where closeness was unpredictable or overwhelming. Maybe their caregivers were inconsistent, warm one moment and distant the next. Maybe they were scolded for expressing emotions. Maybe they were pushed aside when they needed comfort. Maybe they were told they were too sensitive, too clingy, too dramatic. The message they absorbed, consciously or not, was simple. Connection is risky. Vulnerability invites pain. Needing someone creates danger. So, they adapted. They learned to retreat into their heads. They learned to soothe themselves. They learned to rely on silence as a shield. Their independence was not strength. It was self-defense. They became good at disappearing because disappearing kept them safe. As adults, the pattern becomes subtler, more refined, almost invisible, unless you know the signs. These people can form deep connections, but not for long. They can open up, but in quick bursts followed by withdrawal. They can be incredibly loving, empathetic, and intuitive, yet completely unreachable when their emotional circuits overload. They disappear not because they do not care, but because they care too much and cannot regulate the fear that comes with it. Inside their mind, closeness feels like stepping too close to a cliff. Connection feels warm until it feels threatening. Intimacy feels beautiful until it feels like exposure. One moment they feel safe. The next, their nervous system signals danger. It is not logical. It is instinctual. Their body remembers every moment. Closeness led to hurt, abandonment, or disappointment. And before they even understand what is happening, the retreat begins. They stop responding as quickly. They shorten their answers. They feel guilty for the pullback but also relieved by the distance. They tell themselves they will reply later, but later becomes days. They imagine reaching out, but the thought of reconnecting now feels heavier than disappearing further. They assume they have already disappointed the other person, so they spiral deeper into avoidance. The shame becomes a barrier. The silence grows thicker. Eventually, they vanish completely, even though part of them desperately wishes they could stay. Here is the dark psychology behind this pattern. People who disappear have often internalized the belief that they are easier to love from a distance. They fear that the closer someone gets, the more likely that person will discover something unlovable. They worry that their flaws will be exposed. They worry that their emotions will be too heavy. They worry that they will need too much. They worry they will disappoint someone the moment they are fully seen. Distance feels safer because distance hides their perceived inadequacy. Many people misunderstand the vanishing friend. They think they are flaky or unreliable or aloof. But the truth is that people who disappear feel everything intensely. They pick up on tone shifts. They sense emotional pressure. They absorb unspoken expectations. Their nervous system reacts to emotional closeness the way others might react to physical danger. They are not running away from you. They are running away from the version of themselves they fear will hurt you or burden you or fail you. There is a loneliness that lives inside these people. A loneliness far deeper than the average person understands. They want connection more than anything. They crave closeness. They long for someone who feels like home. But the moment they get a taste of it, fear whispers that it will be taken away. So they leave before they can be left. They withdraw before they can disappoint. They disappear before they can be hurt. The conflict inside them is constant. One voice says, reach out. The other says, hide. One voice says, be honest. The other says, protect yourself. One voice says, you are safe. The other says, danger is coming. This inner war exhausts them, so disappearing becomes the only relief they know. Imagine the emotional pattern. They get close. They panic. They retreat. They feel guilty. They stay silent. They miss you. They fear returning. They disappear further. And yet, the whole time, they still care deeply. They experience regret and silence. They replay the relationship in their head. They wonder if you think badly of them. They wish they knew how to stay. They wish they knew how to be steady. But the shame of disappearing keeps them from coming back. This is the part outsiders rarely see. Every disappearance is followed by a private collapse. They feel like they failed. They feel like they pushed away the very people they wanted to keep. They feel unworthy of reaching out again. They convince themselves you are better off without them. The shame builds like a wall they do not know how to climb. And yet, even in silence, they are watching from afar, checking your posts, wondering how you are, missing moments with you. They do not reach out because they fear the conversation where they must explain why they vanished. They fear the disappointment in your voice. They fear being asked for truths they do not have words for, so the silence grows. But the caring does not fade. It only becomes quieter. The breaking point often comes when loneliness becomes heavier than fear. They wake up one day and realize they have built a life full of people, yet feel connected to no one. They realize the walls they built to protect themselves have become prisons. They realize the habit of leaving first has kept them from ever truly arriving anywhere. They see how much life they have watched from the sidelines because they were afraid to stay on the field. Something inside them whispers that disappearing is no longer working, that the cost is too high, that running is killing the very intimacy they crave. And for the first time, the idea of staying feels more appealing than the illusion of safety. Healing for the vanishing personality type is not about becoming clingy or overly expressive. It is about learning to stay present even when fear rises. It is about communicating discomfort instead of withdrawing. It is about revealing small truths instead of hiding behind silence. It is about practicing micro-vulnerability, one tiny moment at a time. It is about allowing someone to hold space for their panic without assuming it is too much. They learn that closeness does not have to mean danger, that connection can be chosen instead of feared, that people do not flee the way their past taught them to expect, that love does not always collapse, that staying can be a skill, not a risk. They begin to say things like, "I need time, but I am not leaving. I feel overwhelmed, but I still care. I get scared when things get close, but I am trying." These small confessions create safety. They turn old wounds into new possibilities. The truth is that disappearing was never a personality flaw. It was a coping strategy, a learned response, a survival instinct formed in rooms full of silence or chaos or absence. But survival is not the same as living, and disappearing is not the same as peace. You deserve relationships where you do not need to vanish to feel safe. You deserve people who understand your fear is not rejection. You deserve a world where staying feels possible. You deserve closeness that does not threaten to break you. You deserve to be seen without being exposed. You deserve to be held without needing to run. You deserve connection that does not make you disappear.